Emphasis on dumb. Okay. Okay.
Can you start up prayer?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Help us to grow closer to you each and every day. As we pray this through you, Mother, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death.
Do you want me to do an introduction? That's fine. Okay.
Yours is probably more fun. Good morning, everybody. Personal finance / entrepreneurship, St. James Academy. How's everybody?
Good.
What's new at St. James this year? How's sports going? You guys are usually pretty dominant in sports, right? Homecoming football game last Friday, is that right? You did? Who played?
Blue Valley.
Cool. And you guys played at Mage, right? How are the other sports doing? Anybody here play golf? I hear there's a golf tournament or something like that.
Yep, golf's doing well.
Golf's doing well? Good. How's the non-sports social stuff doing? How's the vibe on campus? Good? Everybody looks good? I see a knee brace. If you have a knee brace, you don't have to wear slacks. Is that the rule?
Yeah.
I would have twisted my knees many times. All right, so my name is Sean Cailteux. This is my wife, Jamie. This is our newest, Josephine. We call her Josie. And then we have another daughter named Claire, who is 2 years and 2 months. So she's not here because she would be all over the place. So she's being babysat right now. But this is our family. We're good friends with your teacher, Mr. Webker. Known him for over 6 years now. And he asks us to come and speak every year to the personal finance class, just to give you guys sort of a different, I'll say perspective, but to share with you how personal finance impacts our lives as a Catholic married couple and a married family now with kids. So that's going to be kind of our approach. So we realize that at this age, being high schoolers and a lot of you going off to college, you're just kind of experiencing the world like in a new way, new ideas. You're being exposed to just new procedures. So this is kind of our way of maybe giving you guys what's worked for us in our life, even as single people before we were married, so that whatever your vocation, whatever God calls you to, maybe someday some of you end up married with a family, God willing, and then you kind of go back to that personal finance class where Sean and Jamie came and shared some of the things that they do that they find brings them happiness, brings them success, and brings them closer to God in their marriage. So that's kind of our goal, our main goal today. So I'm a chiropractor. That's my full-time job beyond being a husband and father, which is really my primary job. But that's how I bring home money. My wife Jamie is a nurse at Children's Mercy Hospital. So we're both in kind of the healthcare field. We'll share a little bit about how health is important to our lives and impacts us as well. We met about 8 years ago at a Catholic young adult event. Started dating shortly thereafter. We're engaged a couple years later and married 3 years ago this October 11th. We had our first daughter, Claire, about a year later, July of 2015. And then Josephine, like I said, about a month ago. So we're going to share just a couple pictures with you guys. My wife put together this slideshow. I did not okay any of these pictures, but we're going to just go with it.
Yeah, we're seeing them blown up on the screen. I'm a little more self-conscious. But Sean's bright red in this picture because we're at a wedding, but he had just done a warrior dash.
It was
right?
Tough Mudder.
Oh, Tough Mudder earlier in the day, which is super extreme.
Which Mr. Webker did
but
with me as
yes,
well,
it did.
and about 20 other friends. The green button.
2014.
Yes, 2014.
So, just a couple pictures to give you a little glimpse into our life. Just normal dating,
Yeah, this
regular
is
stuff.
this is back when we were dating. We're dressed up, going out to I think it was to a pro-life banquet. This was our engagement, or my proposal. We met. So the event was called Nature's Call. There's a really great young adult group in Kansas City called City on a Hill. Some of you, after when you get into your 20s, if you stick around Kansas City, maybe after college, if you come back here, you might even be fortunate enough to get involved with it. But
That's how we know Mr. Webker.
That's how we know Mr. Webker. But it can be tough to be a young adult and to live an authentically Catholic life in the midst of a lot of the challenges the world has to offer, a lot of the temptations the world has to offer. You know, guys have guy friends, girls have girlfriends. Your guy friends want to go hang out and, you know, do whatever guys do, and it doesn't always involve, you know, giving glory to God. So it's not that your guy nights always have to end it with adoration, although that would be kind of cool. Worked for Pier Giorgio. But just to have good, authentic Catholic conversations with men and young women also your age, to be able to go somewhere and to have a weekend camping trip where there's young men and young women, and there's mass, and there's confession, and there's sports, and there's beer, and there's, you know, whatever, grilled food, and you meet somebody who ends up becoming your wife. So City on Hills provided us with a lot of opportunities to just be young, single, and young married Catholics in the Kansas City community, but also to not find ourselves drifting further away from our relationship with God, but instead kind of enhancing our relationship with God through the good friends that we meet, and the good activities that we're exposed to. So this was our proposal a few years ago. This is a picture of us outside of our house that we now reside in. We bought this house in August of 2014. Doesn't seem that long ago, but it is, I guess. And so I lived in the house for a month and a half before Jamie and I got married, which, you know, we didn't really have anything yet, so it was just a big empty house and my imagination when I'm trying to sleep at night and the house is making weird noises that I'm not familiar with. So
Then I moved in and saved him
from my imagination. Yeah. But that's our house. We live in the Waldo area. Beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. Very blessed. This was a picture of us right after we got married, and we were on our way out to our reception at the Elms, realizing, holy cow, what did we just get ourselves into? But this is us on our honeymoon. We went to Destin, Florida, because we were supposed to go to Cabo, Mexico, but a hurricane beat us there by about 2 months. So there really wasn't much for us to do in Cabo, so we rerouted last minute and decided to go to Destin, Florida instead, and we had a great, great time. This is Claire, our first, a couple of years ago, so changed our lives forever. I still had a little bit of hair in that picture. This is Claire's first Halloween. We decided to be Chipotle burrito, bag of chips. So the quick story behind this costume, we were going to a Halloween party, and I don't really do Halloween necessarily. Like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of work to come up with a costume. But my wife was upset because we were going to this costume party and we didn't have costumes. And so I could tell she was really stressed about it. So I said, don't worry, I'll come up with something. It'll be funny, it'll be free, and it'll be easy. So I just had these yard bags in my garage, and I thought, I'll just turn a yard bag inside out and write chips on it and do the Chipotle logo on the backside, and then we'll just wrap Claire up in tin foil. So we'll just be Chipotle.
And that is a free t-shirt I got because we went into Chipotle that night, and they thought it was so awesome that they gave me a t-shirt.
I'm sure a lot of you know that if you dress up on Halloween, you go to Chipotle, they'll give you like a free burrito. If you didn't know that, you're welcome for that little bit of advice. But Chipotle, free burrito, Halloween, if you show up in costume, do it. So we got like 2 free burritos and a free shirt, and everybody, all the employees want to take their picture with us, so I guess they liked it. This is Claire's first birthday party and her demolished cake. You can tell she's having a good time. This is us at the Turkey Trot, the Ward Parkway Thanksgiving run last year. So we decided, family traditions are important. We want to make memories with our kids. So let's, maybe every year we do a Thanksgiving run because we're into health and we're also into charitable giving. So it took a little effort, but we found a Turkey Trot that sponsored something that we were into sponsoring, like harvesters and that kind of thing. So I think we decided, though, this year that maybe until Claire's old enough to do a little fun run herself, maybe instead of doing a Turkey Trot and going through all the yellow tape, we'll just go run a 5K ourselves in the morning and then just make a donation to Catholic Charities or something like that. But family traditions are important. We're kind of realizing that, and I guess I never thought about it until I was married, but memories, it's not so much about where you go with your family or what you do, it's more just about the fact that you were with your family. We didn't take a lot of fancy vacations when I was a kid, but I still remember all the intentional time that I spent together with my mom and my brothers and sisters. So we just want to be able to do that for our kids. Let's see, where's this?
Dan
Dan and Rachel's wedding. Okay, so this was recent. I promised Claire was having a good time that night.
This wedding made me realize how different it is to be a family because now it gets to be like 9 o'clock. We're at a wedding reception.
Oh,
I'm
right.
like ready to go home.
We're the
Whether
first-
or
we're
not
the first
she's
to
with
leave.
us, but definitely if she's with us, she was done by that point.
Mhm.
We shortly after changed her into her pajamas and left, but it's still fun.
Please excuse the interruption. Mr. Huffy to the front office, please. Mr. Huffy to the front office.
Mr. Happy? All right, so yes, you go from being like the last people typically to leave the wedding reception to having kids and being the first people to leave, but it's okay. It's a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of a way we could tell this story. You know what I'm going for?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were traveling for a wedding, and Claire was older than this, but much younger. Maybe she's 1. So kids have to take naps, right? Or else it just becomes a disaster later in the day for everybody. So we were at this hotel, and it's a very modest hotel, not like with the suite room off to the side. So we need to put Claire down for a nap, and we can't like watch TV or anything because we're all in the same room. So we have to find a way to be in the room with Claire, but be quiet so she can sleep, and then still try to like do something fun. So we had a cooler with some adult beverages, and we were just sitting in the bathroom, like having our adult beverages, toasting to our new life as parents, trying to find a way to just make everything work. But Claire got a good nap, and we had a couple of beers in the hotel bathroom. That sounds like really horrible, but it was a fun time for us. Okay, so this is Josephine, born 5 weeks ago. Claire was totally bald as a baby for like a year. She had the thinnest, like little blonde hairs, and this kid comes out with all his dark hair. It really kind of took us by surprise, but it was amazing birth story. Jamie, we got there to the birth center, and an hour and 10 minutes later, Josephine was born. It was crazy. Yeah, my wife's a superhero. So this is our family: Claire, Josephine, and us. This is Josie with her little fro hair, a little smile there. I think that's all the
Last thing is
pictures.
the video. So just a little video to demonstrate why we didn't bring our 2-year-old today. Let's see. This is just her on an extremely average day. Nothing special whatsoever.
You did that. I saw you. Bye, Claire. See you later. You're going to sleep?
Yeah, probably.
Night night. Daddy night night? Okay. Anyway, so that's Claire.
So, I was thinking last night that we're not the most normal family, and I was trying to research just how abnormal we are, so I looked up some statistics. So 2/3 of couples live together before getting married. We did not. 1 to 3% of women of childbearing age use natural family planning instead of contraception. We do.
Use natural family planning.
Oh, yeah. Less than 20% of Americans attend church regularly. We do. And more than that, our shared Catholic faith is really the center of our marriage. And we both believe that marriage is a path to sanctity, meaning that my job is to get him to heaven, his whose job is to get me to heaven, and together we work on getting our kids to heaven. I'm not sure how many married couples live by that, but probably a pretty small percent. I'm not sure how many families have a written, posted family mission statement, but we do. As Sean was writing this, I looked at this and realized this is actually our family mission statement. This is just something that we were talking about this morning. What did Claire say?
So yeah, Claire's getting to the age now where she kind of whines about a lot of things, and so we're just very demanding that please and thank you become a part of her vocabulary. That's part of our vocabulary that runs off on her. Yes, please, no, thank you, but then also not to whine. So this morning she was eating breakfast and she said, "I want ice in my drink," and I said, "How do you ask, Claire?" "I want ice, please." And I said, "Very good." And she goes, "And don't whine." And I said, "That's right."
She's heard that a few times. And kind of in relation to that, we'll get more into it later. So our mission statement is about kind of underlying that is family unity and doing things together as a family. But we also have a passion for doing things separate, having men's formation time, men's social time, and women's. So we have our friends. I have a women's book club, and also friends that I casually hang out with. Sean has a men's group that he meets with regularly. So those are important things for us too, for developing our faith and our necessary social outlets that we need. And 2/3 of Americans do not keep a detailed written budget, and we do. We'll get into that. And 10% of American workers are self-employed, Sean is. So we're pretty strange compared to the average American family, apparently. So just to kind of go into detail on some of those points, Sean talked about our dating and our engagement, how City on a Hill, the young adult ministry, was such an important part of our relationship. And the reason I bring up not living together and how odd that is, of course, the Catholic Church prohibits that, and for lots of good reasons. One of them, I don't know if you've ever heard, but couples who don't live together before marriage are much less likely to divorce. So that's a plus. And not using contraception is also statistically good for a marriage. People don't often realize that, but there was a group that did a pretty well done study on couples who use natural family planning, and only 1% of those couples divorced. And I think out of that 1%, there was a couple who eventually remarried each other. So that's a lot better than your national. What's the national average for divorce? About 50%, probably. If it's I think I heard recently that it's getting slightly better, but that's only because less couples are actually getting married. People are understandably afraid of commitment when the stats look that bad. But with the proper outlook on marriage, it doesn't have to be something so scary. And natural family planning fits into our, and don't worry, I'm not going to focus on this because maybe you think it's gross, but you can hear about it in your health class or theology class or whatever, hopefully you do. But it fits into our healthy lifestyle too, not using any artificial hormones that can mess up my body, potentially mess up my nursing babies. And Sean will talk more about our attempts at a healthy, intentional lifestyle too. And really the most important thing about natural family planning is it's scientific. It works, but ultimately you have to trust in God that He has a plan for your life and that He is going to provide for you no matter what happens. And it's just worked out beautifully in our life that our beautiful girls are 2 years apart. We are in a good place financially. We feel stable, but more kids come along, the more we trust that God's going to provide for us, and we're going to prudently do what we need to do to provide for them too. So that is a big part of it.
So I'm supposed to talk about the fact that our marriage is a path to sanctity, as outlined in our mission statement. Desiring heaven is our ultimate goal. So right there at the very front of our family mission statement is why we do what we do. Like, why did we get married in the first place? Why do people get married? That's what you do. You just find a woman, find a man, get married, have a family. It's because that's our path to heaven, to sanctity. For some people, it's the priesthood or the religious life or the consecrated single life or something like that. For us, we felt like God was calling us to marriage. So our marriage serves as a vehicle to get us to heaven through the other. We are a Catholic family, and we're devoted to prayer. We're devoted to humble service, and we're devoted to healthy, intentional living. So primarily, we're devoted to having that relationship with God through prayer. But also, we love to serve. That's who we were as single people, and that's who we are as a couple, and that's who we want our kids to be, right? So we want our kids to grow up in a house where they see mom and dad serving others. They want bringing them with us to serve others, and so they'll grow up to be of humble service. And then healthy, intentional living. How do we have the energy to go out and serve? How do we have the energy to lead each other to heaven when not every day is great? Sometimes, we can all relate to this. Sometimes you wake up and you just don't feel like doing what God's calling you to do that day. So we feel like the healthier we are, the better fitness we have, the better fuel we have in our bodies, the more likely we are to persevere through those days where we just don't feel like, giving it 100% today. And then we want, through our mission, to use laughter and love. We're kind of goofy people. I know we have a serious face on today. Claire is a goofball too, and I just imagine that we're just rubbing off on her. But
Can I just tell a little story? Every now and then they have.
Depends on the story.
Okay.
Is it flattering or
Okay,
no?
let me use the other story. So every now and then they invite me over for dinner, and Sean, like the doors just open a crack and nobody's answering, and I go in and I wish I could imitate this, but he's in the corner like striking some sort of a strange pose. And it turns out you should probably take over the story from here. This is like a daily event.
Right. So it wasn't just to scare Mr. Webker. It was because my wife was right behind him. She had just got home from work. So I haven't done this in a while, so I'm glad you reminded me. But when Claire was old enough to be used as a prop and then eventually be an active prop, I would, Jamie would come home from work and I'd be home. I stay home all day on Tuesdays with Claire and with Josephine once Jamie goes back to work. It's just part of being self-employed and being able to set my own schedule. I love having like an entire day in the middle of the week where I can just be home with my kids. So Jamie would get home around 8:15, and we would just come up with all sorts of different ways to just kind of freak her out. So, Claire would be, I'd put Claire like in the laundry basket, and then I would go hide, and I would tell Claire, okay, be quiet till Mom gets in. So Jamie would just walk in, and the house just kind of seems empty, and then she hears giggling coming from like the laundry hamper in the corner, and then Claire jumps out and says, I scared you, and she thinks it's so funny. Or we'd lay on the floor and pretend like, we were dead or something like that.
Once you have like a knife propped up with him, not with Claire, but it
Yeah.
gets weird.
Yeah, like before Claire was born, I would just grab a knife and stick it in my arm and just lay on the floor like this, or I don't know, just whatever.
Or when baby Claire got propped up with a liquor bottle from the shelf.
Oh yes, that was a good one. When Claire was still like an infant, I propped her up on the couch, so she's just sitting on the couch, and she had like a liquor bottle by her, whatever. I don't remember.
We're not alcoholics. We tell a lot of stories about alcohol.
Yeah, all of our good stories involve booze. It's just fact of life. But yeah, okay, so weird sense of humor. But the point is I don't know. I think leading other people to Christ is better done with a spirit of joy, right? Not sour grapes. Nobody's going to follow us to Christ if we're just like wearing our sackcloth and ashes and just running around talking about how miserable our lives is because we're just making sacrifices all the time and we're doing it, but it's not fun. That's not the Catholic faith, for one. The Catholic faith is one of joy and one of laughter. So we just want to be sure that we're kind of bringing that mentality into our home. And again, our mission is to bring each other primarily to Christ, but to bring everyone that we kind of come in contact with, and to do it through Our Lady, because that's how Jesus has asked us to kind of come to Him, is through her. So that's our mission. So bringing each other to holiness is what we're all about. Our healthy, intentional living, I kind of touched on that, and I probably don't have to go too far into that. It fits into what I do as a chiropractor, and then also to Jamie being a nurse. The difference, though, between being a chiropractor and being a nurse is, and I'm going to use some words that you may not be familiar with, but I think they'll make sense as we get into this, but holistic health and allopathic. So allopathic is the model that Western medicine uses. So there might be some kids in here, some of you want to be doctors and nurses and surgeons and that kind of thing. And that's great. The world needs good, surgeons, good nurses, good family medical physicians. But the mindset of the medical field is that medicine treats, medicine cures. So you have a headache, take ibuprofen or Tylenol or Advil or whatever, because our goal is to just get rid of your headache. But see, as a chiropractor, I'm not allopathic, I'm more homeopathic, I'm more naturopathic or holistic, which means if you have a headache, my goal is to figure out why do you have a headache, where's it coming from? Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you have, I'm going to say a word here that's going to cause a lot of you to move in your chairs. Maybe you have terrible posture, right? So I start talking about posture and suddenly you just start to do this. And then you got the real hard asses that are like, whatever, I have bad posture and I know it. I'm just going to stay here anyway. This guy's like, yeah, man, he's talking about posture, but I'm not moving. That's how I sit. And it's cool.
See you in the office.
See you in the office in 10 years. Now, so chronic bad posture, as students, maybe sitting studying a lot, and now smartphones, so many people just live down here, right? And it's like this is where a lot of stuff happens now, and that's okay. But it's doing this to a lot of people. So I take care of so many people with chronic headaches, not because they need more ibuprofen. That's not why they have a headache, because their body's deficient in ibuprofen. They have headaches because their necks are constantly reversing in this direction. It creates chronic tightness in these, what we call suboccipital muscles, and they get these just radiating headaches up here. Now, you guys probably aren't going to have a lot of this because this doesn't usually start to develop until years and years and years of putting your body in an adverse environment. So bad posture is an adverse physical environment, and it eventually catches up to people. So if I'm a medical doctor, and again, nothing against medical doctors, I'm just saying, oh, you have a headache, here, take this, and if the headaches come back, come and see me again. Or, take this for 30 days and whatever. But my approach is more, let's find out why you're having headaches. Because if we can remove the stress, then the headaches go away. Because you weren't created to have headaches. You weren't created to have, aches and pains, really. We all get old and eventually pass away. That's the nature of life after original sin. But while we're here, we're created to be healthy. And so if we give ourselves a good environment, meaning good physical environment, which includes exercise, good posture, a good nutritional environment, which includes drinking plenty of water, eating good healthy food, and not eating too much of the wrong things or drinking too much of the wrong things, and then a good emotional environment, good spiritual environment. So we probably, unfortunately, have friends or family members who just spiritually or emotionally, they're always stressed out and worn down, and you can just kind of see how that wears on them. So we try to be healthy in an intentional way by creating an environment of good nutrition, good exercise, good physical lifestyle, and good spiritual and emotional well-being as well. Yes.
Well, and I just want to make two quick points. These two, with their health and their fitness and all that, they are my two go-to people. I really love all things nutrition and exercise, and whenever I have a question, I go to these two. For example, I did the Rugged Maniac about 23 days ago with this guy because he keeps inviting me back to do this kind of thing. And afterward, I was like, what do I need? I think I need pull-ups and plyometrics. And he sent me, 35 different pull-up exercises I could do. So these two are kind of my gurus or my leaders. Now, personal finance-wise, you're going to save yourself an amazing fortune on doctors and things like that if you're in good health later. And they treat health the way that we try to treat a budget or try to treat a schedule. Instead of looking at things as one little incident, I ate a salad today, it's really more like, what's the big picture? What did I do all week long in terms of all the things that he just mentioned?
Which is where treats work into our schedule. We don't eat salads and fruits and vegetables and whatever all day, every day. But we don't have to have a dessert with every meal, right? So intentional living just means that whatever we do or decide to do has an intention behind it. So how many times, because we're busy, do we just eat on the run? I'm just going to have a cheeseburger today. Well, sometimes having a cheeseburger is a great idea. If we're all hanging out and cheeseburger is what's on the menu, I'm not going to not eat because I'm like, well, that's a cheeseburger. I don't put that stuff in my body. Whatever, I put cheeseburgers in my body all the time, intentionally, right? So whatever you're going to do with your life, physically, chemically, emotionally, like you just have to have intention about it. And last thing I'll say before Jamie talks more about our financial life and our finances and our decisions we make with budgeting and all that, is how we use our mission statement just to kind of guide our life. So it's a simple mission statement. The whole reason we even crafted it in the first place is because, like I said, when we were single, before we met, we were people of service. We like to do things for other people. Well, after we got married, we found ourselves trying to continue that life with the same kind of vigor. Like, I'm going to do this once a week. I'm going to give to this. I'm going to volunteer for that. And we found that can kind of divide us a little bit. Like, she's giving her time to this, and I'm giving my time to that. And we said, well, we need to be giving our time together so that we can continue to give and to serve, but to do it as a family. And then we thought, everything that we do needs to be family-centered. So there are times where, even in our families, the kids go to youth group, dad goes to maybe his men's group, mom goes to her ladies group, or mom helps out with this, and dad's helping out with the parish council, and those things are all good activities, but if we're not careful, they can kind of pull the family apart. Sports can kind of do the same thing. Sports is great. I love sports. I still try to play some until I just rip my hamstrings apart or something. I don't know. But I try to stay athletically engaged, but I don't want that to pull away from my family life. So sometimes parents get their kids involved in like 3 or 4 different things. Like, you got football this day, then you got karate this day, and then you got forensics this day, and mom's driving you around, dad's driving your siblings around, and it's like, when's the family together? So we just want to make sure that as we continue our lives going forward and the girls get older and God willing we have more kids and we get them involved in things so they can do sports or play piano or whatever it is they want to do, that it doesn't pull us apart as a family, because that can happen. And I think it can happen without us even really realizing it, because we think it's an okay thing, because the kids are involved in like good character building stuff, but then they're just missing out on family time. So we just wanted to make sure that we had a mission statement that anytime someone approached us and said, hey, can you help with this? Or hey, do you want to get involved in that? We look back to our mission statement and say, does this fall in line with who we are as a family? Is this going to keep us kind of together? Okay, so that's kind of why we have that mission statement. So I'll let you talk more about finances.
So, in absence of a good segue, I'm just going to talk about our family finances now. Obviously, a marriage is 2 different people coming together, and that involves possibly 2 very different ideas about finances. Maybe similar, but nobody has the exact same upbringing, the exact same brains, the same way of treating circumstances that happen throughout your life. I grew up with a dad who's kind of obsessed with just being responsible with your money, and I benefited from it in that I became kind of more of a saver and also interested in investing from an early age. And I was, but not everybody has a parent like that in their life or some other kind of mentor who's going to teach them those things. Sean won't mind me saying this. He didn't exactly have that kind of person in his life. His upbringing was a little different than mine. And when we were dating, I had heard good things about Dave Ramsey, and our good friend Mr. Webker was teaching a Financial Peace University to anybody, but he was really focused on like our young adult group. And I kind of dragged Sean there. He ended up really liking it, and it ended up being really beneficial to us because we weren't engaged yet, but I think we were almost there, and it got us in the habit of creating budgets and making goals and just kind of having a different mentality about things. And so there's just some philosophies that we have to try to keep our finances in check, because something we've heard a lot is money problems, money fights are like the number 1 cause of tension in a marriage. And obviously we love marriage. We say go marriage. We support it for any of you who are called to it. But marriage is hard enough without something like money always dragging it down. And so we just didn't need that. And so we have some common philosophies, like we hate debt, so we're not going to spend more than we make. Easier said than done, absolutely.
Sometimes we stick to that.
Sometimes we stick to that, yeah. That also means we buy cars with cash. We have a mortgage, but that's our only source of debt. Luckily, we didn't come into this marriage with a ton of credit card debt or car payments, and that can be a hard mountain for a couple to overcome. But we hear success stories all the time of couples together getting through tens of thousands of dollars in debt because of really hard work and a lot of discipline. And so we create a budget every month, and then we track our spending to see how we do. Did we, and something we talk about sometimes is you know what, we've been spending a lot on groceries lately. Why is that? Are we being prudent with where we're looking for deals? If so, maybe we just need to look into what does an average healthy eating family spend on groceries. Maybe we need to allot a little more for that and spend a little less on something else like entertainment or vacation or even gas. Maybe we need to be more efficient with how we're driving our cars, not taking two cars places, stuff like that. And I will pull up our budget. It's just an example of it, just what we look at every month. And let's see if I remember how to get back to this.
Let's do this.
It can be hard enough to make a budget and stick to a budget when you're a single person. Some of you might even be doing that now because of this class. Maybe you started to experiment with having a budget. So if you've done that and you've tried to live that budget, you've already experienced how tough that can be. Well, once you start budgeting with another person, it becomes even more of a challenge, which is why having a plan is important. You can't just assume, oh, we're going to get married and we're going to make more than we spend, and we don't even really have to, again, be intentional about it. That's not the case. So it's hard enough with a budget. I can't imagine trying to navigate a budget without one. And it may look complex compared to what you've got, and it probably should, because we're talking about two people with a lot more on their plate as far as what to buy and spend. But also, this is very organic. It didn't look like this on day one. It's kind of grown into this. And as we tithe to more things, that list gets a little bit longer. Or as we kind of subset different things because we realized we were grouping eating out and eating on the run, like going to restaurants and just eating on the run because we didn't prepare. So going to a restaurant is something we plan for. Here's the amount of money we're going to use when we go to a restaurant. But me being lazy and not packing lunch, so I'm going to swing by and grab something at the gas station when I fill up at lunch. That doesn't go into the same category as a restaurant. That's something where we look at the end of the month and say, wow, I spent $10 eating on the run. I need to prepare healthier meals at home so I don't get into that. So anyway, it's really just kind of developed over the last few years that we've been doing it.
Do we need to make it larger so you guys can see it? Katie, could you make it a little
Sorry, I didn't see what you actually did to Zoom.
Like
just like a smartphone. Yeah. So these are just examples of our categories. And this is an interesting month for you guys to look at because we're going to be $8,000 over our budget this month, but that's because we bought a car. And that money came out of our savings. So we're going to have to intentionally put a little more in our savings every month to catch up. But we don't have a car payment. We bought a high-quality used car, and that's all we ever intend to do rather than have the fanciest top-of-the-line vehicle for $600-700 a month. That's not worth it to us. And our donations categories looks long because we just have several different causes that we care about giving money to every month. And that's another thing we learned from the Dave Ramsey class and really goes in perfectly with our faith is tithing. And how tithing shouldn't really be optional. It's not just well, what do we have left over this at the end of this month? What can we throw in the basket at Mass? $20 out of the wallet, whatever. It's not going to happen that way because if you have money left over, you're going to spend it on something fun or something you don't need. That's just the nature of human beings. So we plan for it, just like everything else in our life. We plan. Sorry to sound like a broken record, I guess, making plans and sticking to them or trying to. But, tithing, the word tithe means 10%. So we give 5% of our income to our parish and 5% to other charities that we care about. And it's easiest that way. Everything's automatic. I don't ever think I wish I had that however many dollars back because it's just gone without thinking about it. Would it be fun to have more play money? Sure, but we budget for that too. So it's not like we're depriving ourselves because we're giving. And the reason for that is, I mean, you maybe heard from the Bible, God loves a cheerful giver. And God is the most generous giver. And I've noticed that even sometimes when our budget isn't lining up, like, man, we had another month where we spent a little more than we made, like, then the next month something just happens. Like one of us gets a bonus kind of thing at work, or then something is considerably less expensive the next month, and like it just kind of works out. And you can't bank on that. That's the thing. You can't just plan on like, well, God's going to repay every dollar that we spend, so we'll give half of our income every month to the church. That's not prudent. God doesn't call us to give like that. Not when you have a family. We're married. We're not meant to live like monks.
St. Francis, yeah, we're not meant to be like St. Francis. St. Francis, amazing, and we try to imitate his life in a lot of the ways that he was charitable. But if I came home tomorrow and said, "Good news, Jamie, I sold our house today and gave all the money to the poor, and we don't have a car anymore, and I also sold all of our clothes, so what you're wearing right now, get comfortable in it because we're homeless and those are your clothes, and we don't have any food, but it's cool because it all went to charity." Like,
yeah, and it's cool because we're obviously going to heaven.
Right. That's absurd. Like that wouldn't even be a virtuous thing to do. Like that would be sinful on my part to just do that. Now, if I had great intentions for it, God's mercy, there'd be forgiveness there. But that's not like that would just be absurd. So yes, to tithe, to give, but to be prudent about it. But to also, like my wife said, it's like the first thing that we do. It's the first checks that we write at the beginning of the month is to the different organizations that we give to. So we know God will repay us in this life as well as next, hopefully.
And yeah, we also have like a gift category, and that's the one where I always know that if I tell Sean, oh, we went over, but it's because we threw that surprise party for that friend of ours, we'll always agree that like, you know what, that was a good thing to do. That was a good way to spend our money. So we don't need to count every penny when it regards to giving, because God has shown time and time again that we get it back in some way. And I'm a stressor, like a worrywart, much more so than my husband. And so sometimes looking at our spreadsheet, I'm like, this isn't going to work out, but it does because we're careful planners, and also because God just kind of fills in the gaps, which is a beautiful thing.
And it doesn't require a lot of time to budget like this either. So this maybe looks and sounds a little overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, what do you guys spend like half your day working on budget stuff? We don't. Once a week, we try to have our family meeting. It's 10 minutes long. We talk about the different, like, our mission statement is broken up in like 10 different categories, like specifically service and sacraments and nutrition, and we give ourselves a grade on like, how are we doing? How did we do this week on sacraments, Well, I made it to confession like I wanted to, and I made it to Mass a few times during the week, or maybe I didn't make it to Mass all the times that I had planned on going. So we just give ourselves a grade at that family meeting, but then we also go over budget stuff. How did we do this month? We're at the beginning of October now, so we can look back and say, how did we do in September? Like my wife said, we're going to be $8,000 in the hole, so to speak, but it was planned for because we knew we were buying a car last month. So it really does not consume our lives, this budget. It's just something that periodically we look at individually and enter in our numbers when we spend, but then we also go over it real briefly at our 10-minute family meeting on Sunday afternoon.
And one crucial tenet of any good family financial plan is an emergency fund / savings account, or however you want to phrase it. But really there should be different areas of your life where you're setting aside money, and one of them being the emergency fund. And like, for example, Dave Ramsey recommends 3 to 6 months of living expenses should be in your emergency fund. So that's if, God forbid, I were to lose my job, or Sean were to not be able to do his job, or something equally devastating. We have money to live on while we get back on our feet. And that's also for the unexpected car repair, or the unexpected house repair, or for example, I decided, I want a cloth diaper this baby, compared to buying all the diapers that I bought for our first. And oh, guess what? You have to spend a couple $100 to get that going. I didn't really budget for that. I usually budget about $50 a month for diapers, so that's a little more. So that emergency fund is what we'll be refilling to pay for our car. But then another area where we save is planning for retirement. And I wish I had a scary statistic to give you. Mr. Weber probably does, but
Average old person, $600 in the checking account. That's it. That's what they've got.
that's very scary.
Pretty scary.
And that the number of people your age, my age, in their 40s, even in their 50s, who haven't even begun to save for retirement is really scary too. And I remember going to like Waffle House and things like that with my dad growing up, and we'd have like a sweet but pretty elderly lady waiting on us, and obviously working way too hard for her age, lifting heavy trays and spending long hours on her feet. And she'd walk a safe distance away, and he'd say, "Jamie, that's A, why you go to college, but B, why you save for retirement. I don't want you doing that when you're old, and you should be enjoying your grandchildren and your great grandchildren." So we try to put away about 15% of our income every month into our various funds that are making money for us. At this point, hopefully you know enough about investing to know that it's pretty silly to not let your money work for you. So that's what we try to do. And we also have some money growing for our kids' colleges too. With the amount of, I'm sure this is something you're going to talk about in this class too, but with the amount of debt the average young person accrues going to college, it's almost it's a crime, really. I don't know who's responsible, but somebody is, and it's sad. If we have the ability to set up college for our kids, we want to do that. We obviously want to teach them to budget and use their money really smartly so that they don't accrue $80,000 by going to college. I don't think that's necessary, but and we want them to get scholarships to maintain jobs while they go to school, all of that. But if we can give them a boost now, because we put money aside and then it grows all on its own, we might as well. So yeah, I think that's about it for money stuff. Smartly? Sure, it's good.
Okay.
Wisely.
Intelligently.
Do you guys want them to do the Q&A? Or do you have more?
There's one last little subsection is just, I was just going to talk about being a business owner real quickly because this is like a entrepreneurship / class 2. So yeah, I've been a chiropractor for 8 years, and 3 months ago I started my own business. But and Mr. Webker was asking me like, "Oh, how's it going?" And people like to ask me, "How's business?" It's great, but it's great because I'm very blessed, and I'm in a unique situation where when I branched off and started my business, nothing about my business changed. Not where I was practicing, not the patients that I was seeing, or the people that I was working kind of with, because I work in an office, and I've been there now for 6 years. Okay, so I was in Lawrence for 2 years after school, and then I got this job here in Kansas City. So it's just right up I-35 and 75th Street. Shawnee Mission Medical Center is around that area, so if you're familiar with that part of Kansas City. And I've been in this office for 6 years, and I was an employee. But I pay my own license renewal at the end of the year. I pay my own malpractice insurance. So all of these, and I don't get any sort of any kind of health benefits. So I was an employee, but I wasn't really getting all the perks that maybe a lot of employees get. So to transition from that to owning my own business, it's not like now suddenly I have to pay all these expenses that I wasn't used to. So that wasn't the case. So that wasn't difficult to transition. Also, it's not like I left the building I was in, had to go pay overhead and build up for this new business that wasn't set up to be a chiropractic office. So I had to put in thousands of dollars to get it built up so that it was my office. I didn't have to do any of that. I stayed right where I was in the office that I was in, and I just became kind of an independent contractor. So instead of making money through my work and then getting paid a percentage of that as an employee, I now pay money at the beginning of the month to rent the space, to use the equipment, and to have the front desk staff answer the phone and schedule my patients and collect payment when my patients leave. And then, so I pay all that money up front, which is a lot of money, but then I keep everything that I make. So immediately I went from, let's say, making 1/3 of everything that I brought in as an employee to paying 1/3 and keeping 2/3 as an independent contractor. So it's almost like I doubled my income just by going solo. And again, a lot of people do that, but it can be stressful because they have to pay the bill out and do everything else or find a place to practice, but I didn't have to do any of that.
So that made it just incredibly easy. So business has been going well. Yes.
Can I just add to this that I've done a little reading on this? Most companies and businesses are started inside of other companies and businesses. Most people don't start something that's completely unrelated. They basically do what's been done here, which is you take what you're already kind of doing and suddenly you just start getting paid a little bit more for it. You know, you take the risk yourself. It's not like you're inventing something new. Most companies are born within companies.
So if whatever line of work you end up in the future, let's say you end up, maybe you start out right out of school, you just start your own business. Maybe you have this concept that nobody else has had. I know Mr. Webker's had some of these speakers come talk, so maybe that's you, or maybe you go to school, you get a degree in something, you go to work for a company, and then you find an opportunity to kind of branch out and be your own boss. More power to you. I don't know. I don't even really know that I have any stress with it. Maybe that
He doesn't stress about anything.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard to like dig up something that's stress worthy with this situation. But I really can't. It's a very fortunate, blessed situation because primarily, number one, I love what I do. So if that's one thing I could say, and I think anybody would tell you this, just do what you love to do. And it sounds like this romantic concept, like yeah, sure, great, but I got to put food on the table. I was just very blessed that God called me to a profession in chiropractic where I get to sit with people day to day. Like every day, I get to just kind of knee to knee, look at somebody, answer their questions about their health. Their health is failing them for whatever reason, and if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. If I think that's the one thing that we all probably hate to lose the most. Like, well, what if I take your car? Well, okay, take it. What if I take your house? What if I take this? What if I take that? What if I take your health from you and just you get stricken with some unfortunate illness that just shuts you down? Nobody wants that. So what I get to do is meet people who are having that happen to them little by little, and they're confused because they don't know why their health is failing them, and I get to help them figure out why their health is failing them, and B, how can we change their environment so that their health starts to work for them like God created it to. So loving to do what it is you do for a career. Like people say, you never work a day in your life, right? And I don't. And not only do I not work a day in my life, but I can give myself the morning off to come speak to you guys and spend time with my wife and live our family mission by serving as a family. So we're here trying to maybe give a little service, but to do it together, and I can just take the day off if I want. So we're very blessed. We put a lot of effort into it, just as far as budgeting and planning, and again being very intentional as a couple. We're very intentional as a couple in the fact that, like, my being in a men's group and her being in a women's group, I'm reading a book right now on like parental leadership. I'm reading a book on just Catholic apologetics, just so that it can help serve me to be a better advocate for the Catholic faith when I meet strangers on the street. But everything we do, we try to just build ourselves up so that we can build each other up. So it takes intentionality, but the fruits of our labors will be someday being in heaven and knowing that the other one is there too, and that we did our job that God called us to, and that was to lead each other there. So yeah, this would be a great time for Q&A. If you guys have any questions on anything that we talked about or anything that we didn't address that maybe kind of hope that we would. So any questions?
Is it okay if we stand and get the kinks out?
Please, yeah. As a chiropractor, I insist.
Yeah. You may want to come and look at the baby just really briefly. You come from a family of 7 kids, don't you?
No, I come from a family of 12 kids.
12 kids?
I'm the 12th.
You're number 12?
Yeah, I've got 21 nieces and nephews.
You're always number 1 in life. You want to go see the baby?
I do. I still got a little bit of cough, so I don't want to be able to.
And I think as the nurse, I can.
Yes. I'm not too big with that.
She's got that 1990s punk rock hair. I really like it.
Trying to figure out how to.
Zoolander for how long?
What?
Think of Zoolander.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh. Whenever you guys are ready. All right, hey guys, let's do Q&A.
Oh, yes.
savings account. Yes, in the back.
So you said you have an emergency budget.
Yes.
Is that's different from your savings account?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we have like
It's part
retirement
of-
savings, and then we have everything else, which is emergency.
The emergency is the number that our savings account cannot fall below, right? So it's a number that, depending on the lifestyle that you lead, like some people are going to need to spend more money a month than somebody else because they have different expenses. So you look and you say, okay, if our income disappeared, what would we need in order to live for 3 to 6 months? Because assuming that within 3 to 6 months we can find a way to get some new income. So we just need something to live on, because if tomorrow we had no income, well, we're living paycheck to paycheck, so how are we going to pay the bills this month? Looks like they're coming to repo this and repo that. That happens to people.
Or you start racking up your credit card debt.
Or you start writing up credit card debt. So emergency fund is just that number where we say, okay, this is untouchable. Now it sits in our savings account, so it's a part of that bigger number that is our savings account. But like when we bought the $8,000 car this month, we just wrote a check we transferred money from our savings to our checking, and we wrote a check, and that's how we got the car. But when that came out of our savings account didn't dip below. We were saving and saving and saving until we were above our emergency fund, because we don't want to spend our emergency fund to buy a car. Now, if that car were to break down and we were at that level where we have to dip into our emergency fund, that's what it's there for. It's for an emergency. Buying a car is not an emergency, but a health issue or a sudden loss of income, like that's like this emergency, and so then you have the fund to pay for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
When we compute how much we would need to live for those 3 to 6 months, it's like bare bones. That'd be like, okay, we are scrapping some stuff.
Yeah.
We're not going to be going out to eat. We're going to be paying our mortgage, going to Aldi,
tithing.
tithing.
But even in a
Driving
case
our
like
cars.
that, God would understand if it's like, well, you either pay your mortgage or you give, your 5% to your church. Like, okay, this month we're going to just pay the mortgage, but then we'll get back on it. So, but yeah, bare bones living for that period of time where we're in emergency mode, for sure. Yes.
What's been a hard part of budgeting with children?
The hard part of budgeting with children.
Unexpected expenses. Granted, if I thought a little harder each month, sometimes I would come up with them. But like urgent care visits with the child is not something you plan for. Or I'm a little bit of an impulse buyer when it comes to my kids, not to the extent that I think some other people are, but it's harder to say no like when you want something for your child rather than when you want something for yourself. Like a cute outfit or a toy that would just make her so happy. It can be kind of hard.
The baby section of the budget, like that we have, that's got like kids' clothes and other things. Really, it's mostly managed by my wife. So just to kind of give her props, I feel like she plans well enough that we haven't really had a lot of unforeseen expenses. So that would be the toughest part of that, is just, well, we don't really know what to, like, we're new to this whole being a parent thing. A couple years ago when Claire was born, so what do we need to budget for? What are we going to buy? And suddenly it's like, oh, she needs this, and we didn't think about that. But my wife did think about that. She did kind of have a good idea as to what Claire was going to need. So unexpected expenses, but because of her planning, we don't really run into that a lot. So we just, it's part of like our beginning of the month, planning our budget. If we're going to enroll Claire in some sort of like kinder music class where she gets to go and like beat on drums and run around and act goofy, we budget for that. Or if the YMCA is having like a night where they have like finger painting and stuff for kids, like we know that that's coming up, and so we work that into our budget. So I don't think we've had too many rude awakenings as far as like incorporating our kids into our budget, but that could be part of it, is just like this new experience of being a parent and maybe not realizing, oh, we're gonna have to buy diapers. I didn't know diapers were gonna cost $200 a month, or I don't know what, so just trying to be prepared for that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you manage time with the two kids?
Really good question. So
so far with the 2 kids, like Jamie hasn't gone back to work yet, but she will in 7 weeks. She'll go back to work, and so we'll kind of see what that looks like as far as me being home with both girls, but with Claire, it was pretty easy in a lot of ways. Jamie dropped her hours from 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week after Claire was born, because at 30 hours a week she still maintains all of her benefits through Children's Mercy, which we carry our family health plan through her work. So she dropped back in hours, but just enough where she'd have a little more time to be home, but she still maintained the benefits, right? So when she's at work and I'm at work, what do we do for childcare? Like I said, I always take Tuesday off, and she goes to work on Tuesday. So right there, we don't have to worry about childcare. So that's a big money saver. Plus, our daughters are always going to get to be with one of us in that situation, which we enjoy that. We like for them to have most of their time be with us. I feel bad if every day from 7 a.m. till 4 or 5 p.m. our kids were being raised by somebody else. Now, some people have to do that, but we don't, and we're very blessed to not have to do that. We want to have our kids with us as much as possible, right? So, but there are days, like maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week, where we're both at work at the same time. Jamie's parents live like only 25 minutes away from us, so Jamie will take Claire with her. She would take Claire with her to work, and her mom or dad would pick Claire up, and then after I got off work, I would go pick Claire up. So again, it was only once a week most of the time, and she's still with somebody who's like her family and just loves her dearly. On those Tuesdays when Claire would stay home with me and Jamie would be at work, every day for lunch, Claire and I would go to Mass first, and then we'd go to the hospital and meet Jamie and have lunch. So we're able to like see her on her work day. It was something that I knew she enjoyed right off the bat, because she just had her first daughter, and then 12 weeks later she's got to go back to work. She's used to being with her daughter all day, and a lot of moms, they really struggle with, now I got to go back to work. That can be tough. So I thought, well, if we just go see her during the day, that would really be nice. And then it just became a habit. It's something that we enjoy doing. So I think probably 4 times in the last couple of years we've missed making it to lunch, but otherwise we do that. And sometimes Jamie, when I'm at work, she'll bring Claire over and they'll bring me lunch or come see me at work. So how else could we answer this question?
I think the time balance is kind of hard sometimes, to be honest. Like I said, I get more stressed out than he does. I've just noticed being a parent that it's just this shocking realization that it's not just all at once, it's kind of little by little, that my time is no longer my own. And that is part of the deal. Like, there's no other way to be a good spouse or to be a good parent is to say, you know what, there is still such a thing as free time. You just kind of have to make it happen. Nap times are like the best time of the day. Or, date nights out. Like, you gotta do it. You can't just say like, well, it's good enough to just stay home and watch a movie after the kids go to bed. That's great, but we need to be out of the house sometimes too. But it's a sacrifice that's built into the job, and it is rewarded so many more times over. I realize sometimes, like, what would I be doing? So every once in a while I think, it's Friday night, what would I have done, what would I have been doing 8 years ago is very different than having a family night in at home. With a babysitter, it can be kind of the same, but it's worth it. It's just it could be a hard transition, but it's a really great thing.
Being a family man or family woman, being a husband, a wife, mother, and father, is not for the selfish. And that's not to say that we don't have selfish tendencies. We do, and we have to pray through them and work through them. But just to being a parent's helped me appreciate my own parents. And a lot of you probably maybe already do appreciate your parents. And maybe you'll be like me, and it won't be until you become a parent someday that you really appreciate the sacrifices that your parents made for you. The way your parents' lives changed dramatically the moment you or your oldest sibling was born. It immediately went from a me-focused life to a them-focused life. Now, we tried to do that once we got married. Like, once you get married, it's really when it becomes less about me and it becomes about her and about us. And so we tried to just take that mentality into when we started having kids. It just really stepped the level of that up a lot. So it's not just about me, it's about my wife first, and then it's about my kids. And there are a lot of times where I'd rather probably go do this, but I can't because they need me. And it's not that I don't want to do this, but that selfish part of me that still wants to just do what I want to do when I want to do it, sometimes that voice is a little louder than I'd like it to be, but I have to kind of pray through that and just get back to that service mentality. So, yeah, and it's not really a hard thing to do because I know it's good for Claire for us to spend time together, and for Josie and for my wife and I. So, but it's that delayed gratification that is such a powerful tool in budgeting. You can't always just have what you want right when you want it. You have to look at the big picture and say, okay, maybe I'd rather do this right now instead of this. But by doing this, I'm developing character in my children, I'm creating bonds with them, and it's just going to set the foundation for just happier family life down the road. So you just kind of have to have that foresight of, I don't know, of being selfless, applying that suffering, so to speak. Yes, sir.
How do you make money in the chiropractor business?
How do you make money? People in pain come pay me to make them not have pain anymore. They come and they say, you have a knowledge base and you have a service that I require, and I'm willing to pay you for it. So let's just, as an example, you come in to see me, right? Because you've got just terrible lower back pain. What do you play sports here?
CYO basketball.
Yeah. All right. So you're playing CYO basketball, and somebody bumps you on a layup, and you land on that right knee, and you tear your ACL. Is that what happened? Did you tear your ACL? What did you do?
No, I just turned
Straight line. Good for you. But you know, people blow out their ACL like that, right? They land on that one leg, and then you're down, right? Your knee just blows up, and you need reconstructive surgery and all that. So you're going to go to the surgeon first, obviously, there. But let's say you don't totally blow your ACL out, but your knee is in a lot of pain. Maybe you've already been to the orthopedist, and they say, this doesn't require surgery, thanks be to God. But you're limping around, and your back starts to bother you because you're just walking all out of sorts. And your knee, it's been like 2 years, but your knee still kind of like clicks and bothers you. And no medical doctors can do anything because they're like, look, we do surgery, and we do emergency care and all that. So, you know, you're kind of on your own. So maybe you go see a physical therapist, or you go see a chiropractor, or you go see whatever. So you come to see me, and we just check the alignment of your body. We make sure your spine is in working order, your pelvis hasn't been kind of thrown off kilter because of the limping you were doing for a year while your ACL healed. And then maybe we do some direct things to your body. So just through that treatment, I charge people for that treatment because I went to school to acquire knowledge to be able to take care of people, and people come and they pay me to give them that knowledge through treatment. So ACLs is an example, but really any health issue that somebody wants to take care of naturally, they don't want to just cover up the symptoms. They might go see a chiropractor, and the chiropractor just kind of leads them to, you know, whatever lifestyle changes they need to get healthier, and that person pays them for their time. So that's how I make my money.
And I'll tell you something he won't take. It's simple. The reason why he specifically makes money and a good enough living for our family as a chiropractor is he knows a lot of stuff. You know, like Mr. Webber says, it's like
You two are my go-to people for all things fitness, health, medical, etc.
Well, most of what I know, I learned from him. Anytime I have a question about how a body works, he's my go-to. So he knows tons of stuff. That doesn't make him different than a lot of chiropractors. A lot of chiropractors know a lot of stuff. But Sean listens to people. Like, they don't always just have something wrong with their body when they come in. People may not even know it, but they're carrying some kind of stress, an emotional or spiritual problem. And he tells me all the time about these conversations he has with people, and they just kind of open up to him, and it's not like he's their counselor or anything. He's a great listener. He has advice to offer on more than just a physical level, and I think people really sense a trust and a care that a lot of practitioners don't bother with, don't make time for, or don't have the skill set for.
Yeah, if I could just emphasize, I mean, there's a lot of studies that really kind of prove that. Let's say you sell cars later for a living. Let's say that you don't know as much as the other car salesman or the other car dealership, but let's say you're more friendly and you like the customers more than the other person does. We human beings tend to go with the person who maybe knows a little bit less, but likes us just a little bit more. But if you combine both, like, oh, this guy knows a ton, and he really likes you, that's just going to be a gangbusters business right there. So, I mean, think about that. We like people who like us. It's good business.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you find time for maintaining your health and running?
That's another really good point. Oh, man. So that kind of falls into how do you balance time for your family and all that. So again, it's got to fall in our mission statement, right? Like we do things as a family. That doesn't mean that we only go to the gym for all the gyms as a family, or we only run Thanksgiving 5Ks as a family. But the Thanksgiving 5K is a way that we can kind of do both, right? And it also gives to our kids that message of we do healthy things, But I want my kids to grow up seeing mom and dad being healthy, right? So when I take Claire to the park, I do stuff with her. I don't just let her run loose and then I just go sit on the bench and look at my phone and get on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I go with her and I help her do the monkey bars, or I'll let her jump to me and I'll put her up on stuff. Or when she was littler, smaller, I would if I'm doing a workout in the living room and she's there, I'll just use her as my weight, right? Just for fun.
She loves it.
Yeah, or just put her on my back and just do some push-ups just for fun or something. So you incorporate her, but then also if I need to go to the gym because let's say I have something specific I'm training for, I'll do it when they're at napping, or I'll take Claire with me and she can go to the YMCA Kids Center because she likes to do that anyway because there's other little kids there and the ladies there are really good with her and they love her and she gets to play with toys. So I go and do workout and she's playing. So it can't be about, well, honey, I'm training for this triathlon, so I know you're making dinner for the kids and Claire's upset, but I've got to go for my run, so I'll be back in an hour. Good luck with everything. Triathlon's it's not that important. Plus, it's not how either of us make money. We're not private to get sponsorships or whatever. So it'd just be a total selfish kind of hobby. So fitness is important, but not at the expense of the relationship with family. So taking Claire to the gym with me, using her as a weight at home, taking her to the park, and while she's running up the stairs and going on the slide, maybe I'll do some inverted rows or something on the lip of the slide. And she thinks it's funny, and she tries to do them too. And so you just find ways to make it happen. The days of structured, I'm doing this workout this day and this workout this day, and I've got this whole plan, is kind of to the wayside. It's you get in what you can get in when you get it in, realizing that it's not about chest and shoulders day to day. It's about whatever kind of exercise I can get for 30 minutes while Claire's with me. That's what we're doing today.
And it still is about planning and carving out time. And I'm already thinking ahead to, in a week I'll be medically cleared to go back to working out. And she's too little to go to the YMCA daycare, and even if she wasn't, I wouldn't want her there because she'll get, catch germs and stuff. So I may have, if I am training for a race, I may have to have a couple of 5 a.m. workouts, before anybody leaves the house. It's just part of the deal. Or wait till Sean gets home before I leave her to go to the gym. Just another aspect of sacrifice that has a payoff because I'll feel good when I can work out.
You guys are still at an age where all of your peers are in good shape too, because you play sports, or you're just young, so you're just kind of fit. But we're getting to an age, especially me, because I'm a little bit older. My wife turns 30 in February. I just turned 35. So a lot of my friends are kind of starting to slide a little bit, and it happens, right?
Not with this guy, but with
Yeah.
with her.
So Mr. Webker is kind of like a freak of nature.
I am a freak of nature.
He's incredibly humble. He gives a lot of praise and he never talks about himself. But if I'm inspired by anybody fitness wise, it's this guy, right? So
From geek to freak.
that's right. But I don't know. I don't want that to happen to me personally.
or just to us, like I want fitness to continue to be important because it requires discipline, and it goes a lot longer than just wanting to like look good or even feel good. It's about having the energy and having the discipline to say, boy, I really like to eat this. I really like to sit around and not do whatever, but I'm gonna use exercise. I'm gonna use healthy eating just as a vehicle to sanctity. That's what it's there for, right?
Treating your body as a temple of the Holy Spirit.
And as you get older and you realize like a lot of you guys are working out for football or you're working out for basketball, so you're like focusing on very specific muscle groups because you're a linebacker or you're an offensive lineman. You need leg strength. You need quickness, so you're out running like cones and that sort of stuff. When you get to be my age, like I'm not out doing cones. I'm not out focusing on this or that. Like health and fitness for me becomes more obviously about becoming sane, right? So it's not like they don't work against each other. They work with each other. But it's not until I really kind of got older that I realized that. So if I can make sure that my fitness with my kids, it all kind of fits into that same thing of why am I exercising in the first place?
Okay, just two quick things. So after this, we probably have time for one more question, then we probably need to reassemble the room. If people want to get a hold of you for any questions about marriage, Catholicism, fitness, budgeting, time management, goal setting, is it okay if I pass on emails and things like that?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so if you ask, I will do so.
We can bore you anytime you want.
It doesn't just have to be today. We can bore you whenever.
And we have time for maybe one more question.
We haven't had a question from any of the young ladies yet. I know we've got predominantly young class, but I'm encouraged a lot of times. Oh, well, we got two. We'll make this one first and then this one. If we can do them real quick. Yes, ma'am.
So real quick, when you were talking about your dad, did you say that like do you agree with him that if you don't go to college, you're kind of not gonna have a good life?
That's a really good question. No. There's so many, I have heard so many success stories of people who don't have a college degree, but they are incredibly successful. It's a really good question. I think for that person, it depends much more on their goals and their mindset and how hard they want to work and discipline themselves. Honestly, I think a lot of college degrees are kind of useless and they just get you a lot of debt. So that's a good question.
It is. Her dad's mentality would be more along the lines of don't just go to college to go to college. Don't go to college and waste money on a degree that you didn't really need to go to college to get. If your passion is in freelance photography or something like that, and you're already like taking lots of pictures and you've got good mentors, and you're like, I don't really need to go spend $18,000 a year at art school for 4 years to get a photography degree, then don't, because then you just put yourself in debt for no reason. Yes, and then last question.
Is it hard to balance between the two girls? Like, if it's the older one get mad?
Oh, that's a good question too. Right now, Claire, I wish we had more pictures of like Claire with Josephine because she, at this point, loves her, right? She gets up in the morning in her crib. One of the first questions she asks is like, "Where'd Josie go? Where'd Josie go?" And we go downstairs, and if Josie like starts to make her little squeaky noises, or she's kind of like cries about something, Claire just immediately gets so concerned, like, "Oh, Josie, fine," and wants to go see if she's okay, and she wants to like hold her. So far so good, but we'll let you know. Thank you guys very much.
Can they hold the baby?
Anybody who wants to, it's up to my wife.
Baby's not sick.